Because of me, everyone now sees that the Republican primary system is totally rigged and broken. When two candidates who have no path to victory, they have no path, they're mathematically out. They ought to quit so we can all get together, we can all unify, and we can all go against crooked Hillary Clinton and beat her. Really, really beat her big league. You had Lion Ted announce that he can't win by himself. He cannot do it. You know, he's a choker. He cannot do it. So he said, let me form a partnership, which I call, what do we call it? Go ahead. Go ahead. What do we call it? Let me form. It's called collusion, folks. It's called collusion. So I wrote up something. But here's a guy couldn't fight by himself. He was saying how well he did. And look, he's Lion Ted. He holds the Bible high and then he lies. He puts it down. Lion Ted. Not worth it. And you know, the Kasich thing is interesting because here's a guy that just says, I'm going to stay. Like a stubborn, like if you have a child who's a spoiled brat, where they go, I don't care, Daddy. Get out of the room, Daddy. I don't care. This is like a spoiled guy. If you look at it, Ben Carson, who's endorsed me, did much better. I mean, he was tough. And Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, great. He did better. Chris Christie, who endorsed me, did better. Marco Rubio did much better. I mean, you look at Marco Rubio, he has more delegates right now than Kasich has, and he's been in the race for a shorter period of time. It's just a guy that said, I don't care, I'm staying. And then you see him eating in the morning. You ever see? I have never seen. He's stuffing pancakes in his mouth like this. Hello, everybody.
Mr. Trump?
Yes.
Pleasure to have you here.
What a nice turnout.
I'm going to ask you some questions, if that's okay.
That's okay.
In a nice, friendly Iowa way.
Okay.
You know, you got lucky here on the weather we have.
We have beautiful weather. I've been here many times, actually, and it's a great place. Greatest farmland in the world, I would say, right?
Do you?
It really is. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, you're a positive guy.
Right.
But you also have been in the real estate business from an early age.
Right.
And I wonder if we could ask you a few questions. I'm a bit more comfortable right now than I was a year ago when T. Boone Pickens was sitting in the same seat as you are.
Right.
But
he's actually a friend of mine. He's a great guy. And last year he gave me the T. Boone Pickens Award for entrepreneurship. And he was really, he's a terrific guy. Although he invested a lot of money outside of oil. And he probably wished he didn't do that.
Well, he told me that in 2001 he had $4 billion. He lost two, and he gave one away, and he was happier.
Well, he might be happy. I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're at a different level than where you normally would invest, but you're a real estate guy, and I wonder if you could talk to us about perhaps what kind of real estate investments do you see would make the greatest returns in the years ahead?
Well, certain cities are doing really well. Miami in particular in this country. I bought Doral, which was, the group before me paid $550 million. The market turned very bad. This is 7, 8 years ago. And then I bought it for about $150 million. And I fixed it. Now it's just opening as it'll be the finest resort of its kind anywhere in this country. And that was a great investment. But Miami is just hot. New York City is hot, Manhattan in particular. But New York City is very hot. There are certain other places, San Francisco. I know a lot about farmland, actually, relatively speaking, considering I'm not a farmer per se, although I've always liked that lifestyle. I gave a picture, and I actually have a picture of myself. I was nominated for an Emmy, and they asked if I would sing Green Acres, and they had me all dressed up in the overalls and the whole thing, and it was quite the fun. But
it didn't look really, really real.
I know, maybe it did. I'm not sure if it did or not, but I'm a big fan of farmland. I know it's gone down a little bit over the last period of time, but and you were at your all-time high. When would you say that was, the all-time high?
Well, last year.
Yeah.
We've doubled since 2007.
Right, doubled, and then it's gone down a little bit, but I think it's a great investment. I think in places like Iowa, I think it's a great investment. Ultimately, it's going to be very strong.
What kind of criteria do you set up, if you have them, on what's a good deal and what's not a good deal?
Well, a lot of things I do because I want to do them. And I don't necessarily say, oh, this is going to be the best return on investment. The ROI, they say ROI, a Wall Street firm would do ROI. I do something if I feel good about it, if I like it. I sort of have to love it, especially when it comes to real estate. I have to love it. And what happens with me more than anything else is I'll do things that I feel have a certain glamour, have a certain beauty to them. A location's very important. The concept of what you're going to do. I've done well with hotels, and I like hotels. We're building hotels all over the world, actually. But the concept of what you're doing, the architecture is, to me, always very important. I mean, a lot of times it costs you less money to do good architecture. I have friends and people and enemies that put up buildings, and they're
enemies?
I do a couple, but really ugly buildings. And a good-looking building would have cost less money, but they don't have a certain aesthetic. So that's also very important. But if you're in the right city and you have the right location in the right city, it's hard to fail.
I'm not Jay Leno, but I want to ask you some serious questions and some personal questions a bit in your business side. You are flamboyant, I think you might agree with that, and many people who are in the business you're in or really are into business are pretty reclusive as far as who they are. And I'm questioning why you've decided to put your name on your buildings and really be a public figure. Do you think it helps you as a real estate man?
Well, I didn't do that purposely. It started pretty much, I did a lot of jobs without my name. People didn't know who I was. My father was a builder in Brooklyn, mostly in Brooklyn and Queens, of middle-income housing. And I learned a lot from him in terms of negotiation, in terms of construction. I watched him as a little boy growing up doing houses and doing middle-income jobs. And I really learned a lot, but I always wanted to go into Manhattan. And I think that it just happened. I named a building Trump Tower early in my career. And it was a tremendous location, 57th and 5th, right next to Tiffany, the best location. And when I bought the air rights over Tiffany, that's where I took all the air rights over Tiffany. I bought them, and I was able to add them on. And I don't know, you sort of have little things like that in other places. But I bought the air rights over Tiffany, which was a great deal, and I added them onto Trump Tower. I ended up with a 68-story building, and it was from the day I conceived it, it was successful. What happened is when I bought the air rights, I had the right to name it Tiffany Tower. And I said to a friend of mine who's very streetwise, I said, let me ask you a question. If you wanted to call it Trump Tower, but you had the right to name it Tiffany Tower, which really at the time, because nobody knew too much about me, would you do it? He said, when you change your name to Tiffany, call it Tiffany Tower. He was just a streetwise guy. And I said, okay. And I had this really valuable right, and I should have perhaps done it, but it worked out so well. So I called it Trump Tower, and that was I was very well known before that, but that was something that was really on 57th and 5th, Trump Tower, and so successful. And then it sort of started from there. I did a lot of deals. They worked out. Some didn't work out, but you make them work out. A lot of times when you have a deal that doesn't work out, you have to make it work out. That's where you're really good, when the economy crashes and you know what to do. And I never went bankrupt. Many people went bankrupt in the early 90s. I never did, but I negotiated incredible deals. I mean, if you were a deal junkie, that was a great time to be. And now my company is very, very big, much, much, much bigger than it ever was before. And I've had just a great time. I've had a lot of great experiences.
How do you select what you brand as yours? Because Steve Brewer tells me there's a lot of things that you've branded with your name. How do you pick what's good and what's not?
Well, I used to just take the really good ones. I'd put my name on and I'd use it and it would be fine. For the most part today, I only want to do deals where my name can go on it, because it means it's sort of an ultimate thing. And the name has become to be known really as super quality, whether it's in construction or whether it's whatever I might do. And when I put the name on a building, for instance, I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel next to Grand Central Terminal. That was before I was using my name. And I called one of the restaurants Trumpets. That was sort of the beginning of things to come. And it was a nice restaurant that I built within the Grand Hyatt. The Grand Hyatt was on 42nd Street and Park Avenue, Lexington Park, and it was good. It was a very successful job. And I ended up selling that and really coming out great, and then I did other things after that. But I started putting my name on as the sites got really good and as I was able to be wealthy enough to buy the great locations. And today I have so many iconic sites. I mean, I just bought Turnberry in Scotland, which is one of the incredible places and the home of the Open Championship, sometimes referred to as the British Open, but it's had 4 of them, and it'll have many more, and we're doing a job there. I call it Trump Turnberry. And I did that with approval because I wanted to get the approval from the RNA, and they said absolutely. But when I do that, it's not an ego thing, it's a marketing thing, because I just get much higher pricing when I do it. I mean, it's over the years, it's meant a lot from a marketing. I've bought many, many failed projects. Over the last 10 years, I bought many failed projects that were in great locations and everything else, and I call it Trump. As an example, I have 18 golf clubs, not including Doral. And I call them Trump National Golf Club Philadelphia or Trump National Golf Club Washington, D.C. And I'm convinced they're all really successful. And I'm convinced that if I didn't call them Trump, I'm not even sure that they would have been very successful.
I recall several years ago your name was coming up, and Billy Crystal, the comedian, said, I think at the Academy Awards, he pointed you out and he said, Donald Trump riding through New York City, looking up at the building, saying, got it, need it, got it, need it, need it.
Need, that's true, need. Because we're sick, I mean, you need, how much do we need? But it's just fun. I mean, for me, it's fun. If you're not going to have a good time doing it, don't do it. I tell that to people all the time. I sometimes will make a speech where friends of mine ask me to make a speech about success and what it takes. And I always say you have to love what you're doing, and you really do. If you don't have a passion, I know the people in this room, I know a couple of you actually, and the passion you have for what you do is incredible. And I know Steve, who put on this whole thing, and his passion with his wife, he came to New York to see me, and I said, man, you're really passionate, aren't you? It's easier when it's sold out or when you have standing room. If it was 50 people in here, maybe it wouldn't be as good. But Steve has tremendous passion. That's why he's so successful with his company. So I think that love and that passion is a very important element.
Well, after all of that you've done in the real estate business and getting higher and higher in effect, I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Iowa is going to have caucuses in January of next year. And a lot of people come to Iowa just to kind of see which way the wind's blowing, so to speak.
True.
And many of them never would say, why they're here, but they would tell you perhaps maybe something of their political philosophy. Which party are you a member of?
I'm a Republican. I'm conservative, quite conservative, and I'm actually making a speech tomorrow, one of the speakers tomorrow, and I basically want to see America be great again. We're not great. We're a debtor nation. We're going to soon owe $20 trillion, much of it borrowed from China and other countries, and I would like to see our country be great again. We have tremendous potential. I just see recently where China is building very quickly a super train, a high-speed railroad between Beijing and Hong Kong. That's a seriously long trip, but they're going to do it in a rapid period of time. And we can't fix LaGuardia Airport. We can't fix our bridges. Just the other day in Ohio, a bridge fell down. We can't fix, and they're really, I mean, if you look at the statistics on these bridges and things, they're really dangerous. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our country is falling apart. Our military is not what it was. And I can tell you in real estate, every week I get a listing, some military bases for sale. We're selling all these military bases. And with what we're doing right now and with the world hating us so much, we should not be knocking the military. We should be building it up. But just being in the real estate business, so many bases are being sold. I say, where do they stay with all of this action? So I'm making a speech, and basically, hopefully it's about competence, and it's about, when they do an Obamacare, which is terrible for people, terrible, and it's going to be ruinous to the country when it really kicks in 2016. It's really going to kick in. So the next president's going to get a real shocker. But there's much better plans that are much better for the people and much less expensive for the country, and they didn't do that. But you look at what happened where they spent $5 billion on a website. Now, I have websites. We all have websites. And I have websites that cost me nothing, and they're big websites. How do you spend $5 billion on a website? And by the way, then it didn't work on top of everything else. So the country is just fed up with it, and that's what I'm all about.
We've been going through this conference today talking about the impact of various things, weather and exports and government on agriculture. And some people are worried about the president over the next 2 years, and other people are worried about the Congress, of what they may do and may not do that relates to business. One of them an inheritance tax, another one to be potentially the change in the capital gains tax, 1031 exchanges.
Yeah.
What's your biggest concern about the next 2 years in Washington?
Well, I think a lot of bad things could happen on taxes. I mean, I know owning a farm, a lot of times you don't have great liquidity, but you have great value. And you pass it, you want to pass it on to your children, and they're making the inheritance laws much, much tougher. So that's something that's going to affect a lot of the people in this room. It's going to affect my family too, because I have a lot of things that are, very valuable, and it's going to affect everybody. But the inheritance taxes, assuming you want to leave it to your children and your family, which a lot of people do, especially farms, they're making it very, very tough in terms of the inheritance tax. The 1031 laws and Section 1031, that's all. I mean, that deferral is a very valuable thing, and a lot of people are saying that's going to be ended, deferring capital gains. As you know, you saw the other day, they want to raise the capital gains tax very substantially. They really want to raise it to a large extent. Essentially, they want to raise it also on inheritance. And a lot of bad things are happening with taxes. Now, whether or not that gets through Congress, I don't know. But I've heard some of the Republicans saying certain things they sort of can live with. And, I'm very disappointed because I'm a Republican and I'm a very conservative person. And I think that they're not negotiating very well with Obama. And I think they're not getting what they should be getting. But it's going to have a big effect on farms and a big effect on farmers and the farmer's family.
If we look at you and what you hold as ideals, what president of the 20th century, early 21st, would you describe as the one that you admire the most?
Well, the one I like the best is Ronald Reagan. I've always liked him. I knew him relatively well. I was much younger, but I knew him quite well. I always helped him and supported him. He liked me. I actually have a nice picture of myself and Ronald Reagan, and it's one of my treasured pictures. I liked what he stood for. I liked his style. I liked how he represented the country. I remember once on Lincoln's birthday, he was putting a wreath down in an area, and he just looked so presidential. He had a great manner, a great style, and and his thought process was much more in tune to mine than certainly what you have today.
Did you know he started in radio in this town?
I had heard that, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's right, and he did okay, but he moved on quickly.
Yeah, he wasn't as... So are you saying if a person stayed in radio their whole career, they're a failure?
Well, I know a couple of, I'll tell you, I know a couple of your radio guys here, and they're great. But Ronald Reagan, he was here, and he was, I heard he was terrific, and he did move on. And who would have thought this was going to happen? He was a successful actor, but he was sort of, they called him a B actor. It turned out that he was an A actor. But he, if you ask me who was the guy, I would say it would be Ronald Reagan.
For this upcoming time, either shiver or salute, who do you think will come forth as candidates? Let's go with the Democrat Party first. Who might emerge?
Well, I know all the players well, and so many of them come up to my office asking me for support and asking me to back them. Many of the people that you have here are asking me all the time, and I'm making my own decision. So I say it's a little bit early to do that, right? But if you look at the Democratic side, certainly it would be Hillary has, got the big lead. And I don't know that that'll stay. Don't forget, she had the big lead a number of years ago when Barack Obama took it away. And right. I would say it was almost equal. I think she's probably, in a way, stronger. Now, you have to ask about health and you have to ask about physical, because it's a brutal, brutal period of time when you have to go through that. And then you have to ask yourself, did she do a good job as Secretary of State? Other places, and a lot of people have very strong opinions about that. So I think she can absolutely be beaten. But I do think from the primary standpoint, I think that she'll probably win. They have a couple of people running against her. Webb and O'Malley probably are running, definitely. I think Elizabeth Warren would give her the toughest battle. But I think Hillary will probably get the nomination, and I think that she'll be formidable. On the Republican side, I mean, I've been very vocal. Mitt Romney was given a chance. He should have beaten Obama. He didn't. He did very poorly in the last month and a half, very, very poorly. I don't know what happened to him, but he did very poorly. A lot of people are very angry at him for that reason. I am. He did, he choked. Something happened. It's like a deal maker that can't make a deal. It's like a golfer that can't sink the 3-foot putt on the 18th hole. Something happened to him. I don't know what it was. And, the 47% comment, that he doesn't care about 47% was a bad comment, and, that's not going away. He's got a lot of problems. And if you remember when he lost, his son or somebody came out and made the statement that he really didn't want to be president, or never did anyone not try so much to be. And I'm saying, that's not the kind of a, that's the kind of a thing a deal maker might say, because you feel better if you don't make the deal. So if Steve doesn't make a deal, you say a lot of times, I don't care. You tell your wife, I don't care, it doesn't matter, because it makes you, but not when you're running for president, and not when you have that many people that wanted you to win. But he didn't get out the vote. John McCain actually had more people voting. Had he gotten the amount of votes that John McCain got, I think it would have been probably a different story. But so.
Hello friends, this is Sam Cheney reporting for WeaponizedNews.com. Today's April 9th, 2016. And here's the Drudge Report exclusive. Boston Globe set to publish fake news tomorrow in Lampoon Trump edition of Sunday paper. Wow, battle over Trump intensifies. So the Boston Globe is going to go ahead and publish fake news. Let's take a look here. The Boston Globe, fake news. Deportations to begin. President Trump calls for tripling of ICE force. Riots continue. Markets sink as trade war looms. Trump, deport illegals so fast your head will spin. Some more of the fake news that the Boston Globe will publish tomorrow. U.S. soldiers refuse orders to kill ISIS families. Trump on Nobel Prize shortlist. Bank glitch halts border wall work. New libel law targets absolute scum in press. All fabricated, all lies. The Boston Globe should be ashamed of themselves. GOP must stop Trump. And here's a tweet from Matt Drudge. Ladies and gentlemen, we are living through history. Indeed, we are. This is why you must get behind Donald Trump, because now the Boston Globe and the entire New World Order, one world government, corporate media is aligning against Donald Trump. And they've stooped to the level of publishing fake newspapers. Please do your own research about the 2016 presidential election. Vote for Donald Trump. Subscribe to this channel, speak out, and take action.